Namaskar. Suswagatam. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Dhargalkar Technoesis, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you who is present here today to attend this webinar. This series of webinar we have started, Successful Redevelopment. And today is the second webinar in this series titled Initiating Project and Appointing PMC. Thank you for joining our WhatsApp group, Technoesis Redevelopment Help Group, and sending your questions. We have received total 11 questions and we'll be covering them today. And these questions will help us formulate the FAQs for the website as well. So keep sending the questions. During today's session also, you can post your questions in the chat box. Along with that, please mention your name and number as well. Before we begin, let me briefly talk about few relevant things. Well begun is half done. So says Aristotle. जैसे अगर हम प्रोजेक्ट की शुरुआत सही करते हैं तो समझ लीजिए कि हमने आधी बाजी जीत ली. And that's what we are doing today because we are talking about initiating the project. TRH, Technoesis Redevelopment Help. This is kind of a social responsibility activity for us. The knowledge which is acquired by Mr. Umesh Dhargalkar over last 40 years of his experience, we just want to share that knowledge with larger society so that everybody benefits. And that's the purpose. With that intention, with that thought, we have undertaken these initiatives which you can see on the screen. The first is TRH WhatsApp group. There are more than 270 members right now and it's still growing strong. Right now, I can see that 7-8 members have joined. From the poll, we understand that there are managing committee members, housing society members, PMCs, as well as developers. From this, it is quite clear that its utility is across the stakeholders. This group is used for making important announcements, undertaking polls, sharing important links. And let me tell you, in future, we are planning to use it. It's in the thought process that we can even have question answer sessions on this because this series of webinars will be over at some stage. But our interaction should continue because as you start using the website, you will have more and more questions. So we can have periodical question and answer sessions after that. So if you have not yet joined the group, I request everybody to join the group. I know groups are normally considered as nuisance because of unwarranted messages. But believe me, this group is an exception. जैसे रीडेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट में कई सारे बेनिफिट्स होते हैं लेकिन साथ में कुछ पिटफॉल्स भी होते हैं, कुछ अनवारंटेड अनचाही चीजें भी होती हैं. लेकिन इस रीडेवलपमेंट से जुड़े हुए इस ग्रुप में सिर्फ और सिर्फ बेनिफिट्स हैं. Excuse me.
Take a 2-minute.
We'll just take a break for 2 minutes because there's some problem with the audio on YouTube channel. Sorry for the inconvenience. We are just testing audio on YouTube channel because many members have joined on YouTube Live as well. Okay, yeah, we got confirmation that we have got audio on YouTube Live as well. So we'll continue. Sorry for the inconvenience once again. Yeah, so We'll again go back a little bit. Technoesis redevelopment help. Like I mentioned earlier, we have this TRH WhatsApp group, which has more than 270 members, which has PMCs and developers and MC members, housing society members as well. And I was just saying that this group has no nuisance. Like mostly, it is considered as a nuisance by many. But this group has no nuisance. It only has benefits, many benefits. Like you will get to know about our next webinars. You can participate in the polls. You can share your questions. There are links, all these things. So once again, everybody is requested because we can see that many of the people who are attending the webinar, but they are not part of the group. So you're just requested to join the group by sending us message on WhatsApp. Then we have a YouTube channel by the same name, Technoesis Redevelopment Help, on which we are live right now. And all our previous videos are available on this channel. Uh, Not only of this particular series, but even our earlier videos are available. I'm sure you will find all those videos quite useful. So all of you are requested to visit the YouTube channel, watch the videos and subscribe to our channel. And you can also press the bell icon so that whenever we upload a new video, you will get a notification. Then, of course, there is TRH website, which we have been talking about, www.redevelopment.info. This website gives us structured roadmap to redevelopment right from inception to handover. Many have started using it and we are getting positive feedback also and suggestions as well. But we can see that many have not yet registered on it. So that registration will take 2 minutes, but we will also come to know who is visiting the website. और आपको भी अगर गाइड पोस्ट एक्सेस करने हैं तो लॉगिन पासवर्ड की जरूरत पड़ेगी. इसलिए सब लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट है कि विजिट करें वेबसाइट और रजिस्टर भी करें. Then next we have email redevelopmenthelp@gmail.com. You can send your questions, your doubts, and we'll try to respond. Then last but not the least, we have TRH webinar series, which we have started, Successful Redevelopment. The first webinar of this series, overview, was conducted on 2nd March. The second one is being conducted today. The third one will be conducted on 29th Saturday, which will be about feasibility study and report. 29 सैटरडे इसलिए हम ले रहे हैं क्योंकि 30 तारीख संडे है, लेकिन उस दिन गुड़ी पाड़वा है, तो we will have it on Saturday. Hope to see you all again there. Almost 35% of the people who have joined today's audience, they're new. And so this recap. In the last webinar, the first thing was introduction to redevelopment, why and what. We dealt upon why redevelopment and what is redevelopment. Then we talked about benefits of redevelopment, such as bigger house, more amenities, etc. We also covered the common challenges faced, difficulties, pitfalls, that is unforeseen circumstances, dangers, etc. We further looked at 5 phases and various stages of redevelopment and their time frames also. The total lifespan of the entire project is around 5 years. Next, we touched upon 79A, under which government has issued certain guidelines for redevelopment. It will be covered in more detail today. We further understood the need to follow structured roadmap for successful redevelopment. Next, we gave an overview of the website www.redevelopment.info. After that, there was a demo tour of website. We saw various sections like roadmap, milestones, record, guidepost for each phase and stage. Those who are interested in knowing more details about the previous webinar, they can watch the video on our YouTube channel. And now comes how. We understood why redevelopment, what is redevelopment, but the most important aspect is how to do it and do it successfully. And that's what we will talk about today and in our forthcoming webinars as well. Because how is a continuous process till completion, till the project is handed over. So in this entire series, we will be finding answers to this question, how? And today's speaker, Mr. Umesh Dhargalkar, will help us find these answers. There are many new faces today. So for their benefit, let me introduce him. Mr. Dhargalkar is B.Tech Civil and M.Tech Structural from IIT Bombay with 40 years of experience in civil and structural engineering, specifically in buildings. Old, new, dilapidated, everything. Since last 18 years, he has been handling redevelopment projects. He has been regularly conducting certified training programs, public seminars, and webinars since last 15 years. And he has imparted training to, he has imparted more than 30,000 hours of training to more than 2,000 engineers. Over to Mr. Umesh Dhargalkar, who is a recipient of 2 national level awards. One as an innovator and another as a trainer in construction industry. So without wasting much time, I hand over to Mr. Umesh Dhargalkar.
Good morning. We had a problem with the YouTube transmission, although MS Teams are working well. So what has happened is that we had to generate a new YouTube link. So those of you who are in the group, the TRH group, you will see a new link there. Please click there and join. And if you are not already in the TRH group, then I would suggest that you go to our channel, YouTube channel, that is TRH channel, and there you see us live. I'm very sorry for this, but somehow this technology advances and we are not able to cope up with that. MS Teams is working fine. We are having a problem with the YouTube link. Please, I'll give you a couple of minutes before I start the main course. So please, either if you are in the group, you click the new link which has been given to you and you will join us on YouTube live. If you are not already in the group, then you will have to visit our channel and then you will see us live there on another link. I'll wait for just 2-3 minutes for you to do this adjustment at your end, and then we'll be good to go. Thank you so much. So welcome back. I hope those on YouTube channel or that YouTube live are able to see the screen and hear me. So thank you, Uma, for a nice recap. Well, in last webinar, what we essentially did is that we took basically took an overview of the redevelopment project, and we also had a demo tour of our website, www.redevelopment.info. As the extension suggests, .info, this is an informative website, and it has no commercial element at the moment. Well, I am thankful to those of you who gave us excellent reviews, not just for the webinar, the last webinar, but also for the website. And those of you who could not attend that webinar, I would suggest that you watch the video. That video is available on the YouTube channel and is also available on our website on the home page at the right bottom corner. Well, last time we talked about the complexities and vulnerabilities of redevelopment and its tricky, elusive, and sensitive nature. Well, a 5 or more years long project, that's what redevelopment project is. And this is where anything can go wrong if you don't take charge and if you're not watchful. That's what we talked in detail in our last webinar. We also talked about a structured approach which is required to do such a long and complex project, how it translates into roadmap, and then finally how it gets translated into our website to help, which is a self-help guide, and how you can use that to stay in control of your project. So when we talk about successful redevelopment, the success is a combination of good beginning, a strong foundation, a tested roadmap, careful actions, and a watchful tracking. What I've seen is that, I'm sure there are many of you here who have just started your project. My question to you is, well, you started the process, you perhaps got even the PMC on board, but has the PMC or have you ever started with a broad roadmap, at least up to the selection of the developer? Well, our website talks about a complete roadmap, right, end to end, from the beginning to the end. But in the crucial stages of selection, up to selection of the developer, have you at least got all the steps in place? Have you started it with a proper roadmap? When I ask this question to many people, they say, नहीं PMC आ गया, हम अभी काम करें, अभी वो feasibility report बनाएगा, अभी हम उसके आगे करेंगे. But they don't seem to be having a well set out roadmap on which to cruise. And this is where our website and series of webinars come into picture. So let's talk about the how of the process, how to do a redevelopment project. This is a second webinar in the successful redevelopment series by Technoesis. And we are now going to talk about starting the journey. Okay, which is, if you refer to our website, the roadmap for phase 1, that is a feasibility phase, and stage 1, which is starting the journey. Okay. Now, कई बार हम लोग बोलते हैं जब हम प्रोजेक्ट चालू करते हैं, हम बोलते हैं our society has decided to go for redevelopment. Go for redevelopment. Now, one question when someone tells me that, मेरे मन में एक सवाल आता है जो मैं बोलता नहीं हूँ, क्योंकि फिर वो अगर बोलूँ तो मतलब वो लोग थोड़े से डर जाएंगे. सवाल यह है कि you are started to go for redevelopment, but have you planned for coming back from redevelopment into your new home? So how do you do that? So that is where you have to have a proper roadmap and then a systems and standards in place. Now, this being the first or rather second webinar, but the first about the first phase, what I thought is that we need to discuss some more things which are not directly in the part of a redevelopment project. Number one is the role of different agencies which contribute to a redevelopment project. Now, two essential agencies which come into picture here are एक तो है हम सोसाइटी और दूसरा है डेवलपर. ये दोनों के बीच का एक this is a game which is played for 5 years between these two agencies. Now, under them there are going to be different agencies that will come to know. But essentially these are the two people who are playing the game. इसमें अगर आप ऐसा सोचेंगे कि these two people are playing against each other, then the project is a failure. Because this project is a win-win for both. This is a project where a society needs the developer, okay, to do the project, and developer needs to do the project to get his profit. So it's a win-win situation. In a sense, I would say this is like a relay race. Relay race में कैसा होता है? There is a part of the team which starts the relay, then the baton is handed over to the next person, then the baton is handed to the next person, and ultimately the entire team wins. So this is a race, a relay race, which is on one side, what we have got is the society and the developer, and on the other side, now this is a race against time. This is a race against time to do a good and stable redevelopment project. Now, initially, when you start the project, okay, the first thing that strikes you is the guidelines which you have to follow, guideline 79A, which give you the first priming of the project. Okay, this is how you start the project. अभी आपने कुछ भी नहीं किया है, तो आप जिसको लेकर चालू करते हैं उसको बोलते हैं guideline 79A. We will talk about that in this. Then उसके बाद we'll talk about structural audit and its provisions. Now, structural audit may not be directly related to the redevelopment project. I understand that. But structural audit is something which is, I would say, very relevant to the redevelopment project. In fact, the point is that सब सोसाइटी शायद रिडेवलपमेंट में नहीं जाती है, सोसाइटी जो जाती है रिडेवलपमेंट में बहुत कम जाती है, पर स्ट्रक्चरल ऑडिट इज अ रेगुलेशन which is applicable to every existing building. So in that sense, we will understand what it is and its provisions. And then we will go to see the website in action for this part. So that is the starting, how to start the journey. Okay. And then, well, एक सवाल हमेशा आता है कि how to select a PMC. Well, 79 says you should have a PMC. Why we need a PMC? We'll come to see about that later. But अगर PMC को सिलेक्ट करना है प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंट, तो उसको आगे प्रोजेक्ट मैनेज करना है. So what do we expect from him? How do you select a good PMC? This is what we'll be talking about subsequently. So let's, as I said, roles of different agencies. I started by saying that the first agency is the society, which comes into operation through its managing committee. Okay. Now, thereafter, you have the consultants on board. अभी सोसाइटी के साथ में, सोसाइटी के टीम में कौन से कंसल्टेंट्स होते हैं? So first and foremost, we must talk about project management consultant who has to be there for the entire project. Project management consultant वो होता है who has to understand your project from the technical as well as many other angles. Mainly the management angle, the monitoring of the project angle. He has to be well versed with architectural planning, then the engineering of the project, then the approval system, okay, when you have to get the plans approved, the construction aspects, the monitoring aspect, and the what is called as a contract management aspect. Okay, contract management is something which is, you have something which we have a contract with you, and how you manage your contract in relation to that. ये सब स्किल अपने प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंट या पीएमसी के पास होने चाहिए. In addition to that, a society will need a legal advisor, especially in phase 3. But remember here, we will need a legal advisor for legal documentation, which is a very important thing, but it has a very short span of something like, आपको legal advisor लगता है फिर से 3 से 6 महीने के लिए for the project documentation, which is basically done on the project. Then the society may also need other consultants as per the need. अगर आपके पास कन्वेंस नहीं है तो आपको उस टाइप का कंसल्टेंट लगेगा. You may need some financial analytical consultant. अगर आपका डेवलपर को आपको सिलेक्ट करना है to understand how good he is financially. So for that kind of analysis, you may need a financial consultant. You may need a taxation consultant. But these are the consultants you may need depending on your requirement. Now, when it comes to the other side, which is the developer, okay, so developer जब भी काम करता है तो with the developer, okay, he has different departments. Which are the departments? The technical department, which is the architectural department, engineering department, legal department, finance department, license department, marketing department, sales department. So many of them, especially for a major side of the project. Then he also has to have his consultants, architects, structural engineers, license consultant, geotechnical consultant, and such other consultant. And then comes the need for a contractor and other such agencies to put up the building. So these are the two main agencies, and the contract of redevelopment is between these two main agencies. Now we have to understand that a redevelopment project is a phased journey. इसमें 5 अलग-अलग किस्म के phase होते हैं, and all these phases are, one after the other in their chronological order. You start with the inception of a project, get the PMC selected, then carry out a feasibility study, which comes in phase 1. ये phase 1 जो है, ये है, इसके 4 महीने तक लगते हैं. उस 4 महीनों में से the inception and PMC selection, what is the main subject matter of today's webinar, is something like 2 months. So you have to, what we'll be talking about will be applicable for your project for at least 2 months. Then comes the second phase. Once you have carried out the feasibility study, then based on that, you will have to prepare a tender document. I mean, your PMC has to prepare a tender document, then float the tender in the market, get the bidders, then run the bidding process, evaluate prepare a comparative statement, evaluate the bidders from different angles, interview them, see their site visits, have their presentations, and so many things which have to be done here until you finally select a developer, which could take something like 8 months. Then once you have selected a developer, then the period comes wherein, well, you have selected a developer, and from there up to the time when you vacate the building, the formulation, the contracts, the plans, and all such things, the development agreement, when I say contracts, the legal documentation, that is what happens here to begin with, okay, based on the tender which was floated in the market. Then the plans are prepared, plans are approved at the society level, then they are approved at the, BMC level, or, at the finally the stage of approval. And when the IOD is received, then you actually vacate. तो इसमें शायद ना आप अगर जोड़ते जाएंगे तो 11 महीने लगते हैं. So from phase 1, 2, and 3, if you add them up, we are talking about a time period of something like 23 months or 24 months, which is 2 years. ये 11 months कैसे आते हैं, इसमें इसका breakup क्या है? This is all given on the website in the proper section. If you see the website right on the home page, you will find all this information. Okay. Then comes the construction part, which could be something like 36 months, that's 3 years. And finally, when the building is ready, then the phase of repossession. Now, this is how they happen in sequence, right? So if you add all the time period together, you will find that your project is something like a project of 5 years, that is 60 months. And then if you see that out of the 5 years, 2 years are consumed in phase 1, 2, and 3. And if we look at them very carefully, you see down below you will find some abbreviations, which are S for society, P for PMC, B for bidders for your project, L for your legal advisor, and D for developer, right? With that reference, if you check phase 1, 2, and 3, you will find that everywhere, if you see in the parenthesis, you will find that for phase 1, it is S and P. So that phase has to, I mean, who actually does a lot of work there? The society and the PMC. In the second phase, it is society, PMC, and the bidders. In the third phase, it is society, legal advisor, PMC, and then the developer comes into picture. So in all these 3 phases, if you see, a lot of different things happen. These 3 phases actually constitute the formative stage of your project. यहाँ प्रोजेक्ट आपका पेपर पे बनता है, मन में बनता है, हर जगह पे बनता है, एक्सेप्ट द कंस्ट्रक्शन. कंस्ट्रक्शन अभी अभी बना नहीं, कंस्ट्रक्शन चालू भी नहीं हुआ, बट your project is defined here, it is formulated here, and this is the formative stage. You will find that so much has to be done in this because the project is getting formulated, and in every phase 1, 2, and 3, you will find that it starts with S. So the society is required to take so many decisions. Society has to take initiative and contribute to those decisions. तब जाके ये project बन जाता है. So from that perspective, phase 1, 2, 3, I would say, are a very tricky projects. क्योंकि अभी प्रोजेक्ट बनते 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 उसमें कभी कभी ऐसा हो जाता है. आई मीन यू ऑल्सो मस्ट हैव कम अक्रॉस सो मेनी प्रोजेक्ट्स. आई हैव कम अक्रॉस सो मेनी प्रोजेक्ट्स वेयर ये जो हम बोलते हैं ना कि फिजिबिलिटी स्टेज 4 महीने में होना चाहिए, टेंडरिंग 8 months एंड इट नेवर हैपेंस लाइक दैट. Why? Because there is just no control. There is no roadmap. There is no time package. There is no control. There is no clear understanding of how things should go in these 3 phases. And sometimes even tendering, jo 4+8, that is 1 year, you will find some societies take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, even 5 years for this. And say if you take first 3 phases, which should not take more than 2 years, you will find there are societies who are stuck in these phases for sometimes as many as 8 to 10 years. Why? Because these are very, very, I would say, vulnerable 3 phases. में यहाँ पे प्रोजेक्ट बहुत फेल हो जाते हैं, फिर इस तरह से होते हैं कि वो चालू ही नहीं हो जाते. They just don't take off. So you have to be very watchful about these 3 projects, these 3 phases, क्योंकि वो आप बना रहे हैं, being the society. Now, with this understanding, let me go to the guidelines under Section 79A of MCS Act 1960. As I said, these are the guidelines with which you start the project. जैसे अपन स्कूल में जाते हैं, you get into first standard, second standard, third standard, right? These guidelines help you form up the primary stages of your project. Now let's see how they do that. So the title of this slide is Essence of 79A of MCS Act. I will stress on some words here. Essence. Okay, these are essentials of which of 79 which we are talking about in this slide. Why do I say essence? Because 79A, please understand, they are guidelines which came into being first in Jan 2009 and then they were revised in July 2019. These are the guidelines. These guidelines tell you कि भाई कुछ ऐसा, there are certain things which have to be done in this manner, and जब भी आप करते हैं तभी आपको इतना उसका, so much time, within 3 months you should do a development agreement and things like that. Now, sometimes in societies it is not possible to follow that sequence in that particular manner in that much time. Okay, तो इसके कारण क्या हुआ है? There have been many cases wherein 79A was not followed, okay, was not followed word by word. इसके कारण कुछ लोग कोर्ट में गए और ये कंप्लेंट लेके गए कि जो लिखा है वैसा हुआ नहीं, जो लिखा है वैसा हुआ नहीं, जो लिखा है वैसा हो गया. Okay, until finally court had to rule that ये तो वही गाइडलाइंस है, आप इसको इम्प्रोवाइज करो, थोड़ा बेंड करो, as long as the essence is served, okay, there should not be a problem. Another point, before I forget, let me bring out here, which is this. जब ये हम भी कभी PMC बन जाते हैं ना, मतलब हमारे PMC के प्रोजेक्ट्स में किसी हमारे क्लाइंट, समटाइम्स पीपल, हमारे क्लाइंट हमको बोलते हैं भैया ये 79 आप हमको एडवाइस करो ना, 79 आपको एडवाइस करना है, हमको 79 कैसे फॉलो करना है. This is a wrong and this is a misconception. Following 79 is the responsibility of the society internally because it comes through the MCS Act. Okay, so now let us see what 79A. Yeah, so what is the purpose? When I say essence of 79A, the main essence of 79A is that what that MCS Act is trying to do through 79 is to bring in the discipline within the society to avoid pitfalls in a redevelopment project undertaken by the society. Now, at the beginning of the 79A itself, it lists 8 points. ऐसे points कि भाई projects fail क्यों होते हैं, projects में गलती क्या होती है. Okay, तो उसमें 8 points आप अगर देखेंगे, उसमें लिखा है कि ये 8 पॉइंट एड्रेस करने के लिए 79A बना है. So the intention, the intent of 79 is to address the pitfalls so that आपका प्रोजेक्ट internally, mark my word, internally sound foundation पे रहे and वो आगे जाके उस कारण से फेल ना हो, उस कारण से इंटरनल मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग के कारण या इंटरनल मैनेजमेंट के कारण। तो वो 8 पॉइंट जो है ना, उसमें इफ यू लुक एट देम वेरी केयरफुली, 7 पॉइंट्स बिलोंग टू, I mean, they are pertaining to the society, whereas there is one point which is pertaining to the PMC. Okay, I think if you want to see what 79A is, वो डॉक्यूमेंट क्या है, तो हमारे वेबसाइट पे आपको मिल जाएगा। आपको हमारे वेबसाइट पे ये भी मिल जाएगा कि भाई वो 79A in actionable points in the initial stages up to the preparation of feasibility report, पहले मुझे कौन सा स्टेप लेना है, बाद में कौन सा लेना है, एज पर 79A, वो हमने उसका एक अलग से एक स्टैंडर्ड बना के हमने हमारे वो इस redevelopment.info वेबसाइट पे रखा हुआ है। सो यू कैन इजीली follow those standards. Okay, I will show you where it is later on. So you can easily follow those standards up to the stage of feasibility. Okay, so when I say essence, what is also expected in 79A is transparency and consensual decisions. मतलब अगर आप 100 मेंबर का प्रोजेक्ट कर रहे हैं तो there should be adequate transparency. So those 100 families, you remember you are doing a project of 100 families, which I call a large family. Okay, so ये जो बड़ी फैमिली है 100 मेंबर की, so for each of them they should know what's happening in their project. So that is what is meant by transparency. But I will take this stage of, I will say, the concept of transparency a little further. मैं तो ये बताऊंगा कि भैया अगर आप बाद में आपके डेवलपर भी आपका आने वाला है तो यू शुड बी ट्रांसपेरेंट विथ हिम आल्सो, व्हिच इज थ्रू द टेंडर। तो आपके टेंडर ऐसे होने चाहिए कि द डेवलपर कम्स टू नो कि भाई आप किस तरह, हाउ यू वांट, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ डेवलपर यू वांट एंड हाउ यू want him to do the project. So when I say transparency for all the stakeholders, that's what I take from 79A. And consensual decisions, ऐसा नहीं कि 4 लोगों ने कोई डिसीजन ले लिया on behalf of 400 people, नहीं होना चाहिए. So this is the intent of 79A. Well, it also talks about conduct of 2 general body meetings, special general body meetings, and sending minutes of meeting to all the members. Now, these 2 meetings are very crucial meetings, and they have been outlined very well in 79. Okay, first is about deciding to go for development, which falls in the current the purview of our current webinar, and the second is about selection. Okay, when you're deciding to go for redevelopment and selecting a project management consultant, and the second is at the time of selection of the developer. Look carefully that these 2 general body meetings have been well articulated because we are getting someone else into our project to either guide us, which is the PMC, or later on to the project, which is the developer. But does it mean कि आपका प्रोजेक्ट 2 जनरल बॉडी मीटिंग में होता है? बिल्कुल नहीं होता है. If you see our standards which are presented in the website, you will find that as per our specifications and the roadmap which you are given, up to the stage of selecting a developer, you will need as many as at least 6 general body meetings. We have identified them there. कौन से लगते हैं? और by the time you vacate, आपको और 2 लगेंगे, तो total about 8. This is what I'm saying is minimum. You might need more. Okay, you might need more for more transparency. You might need more for better discipline. You might need more for better understanding of the project. ये अलग बात है. Now, well, जो मैंने बोला आपको कि इसे 79A आपको ये बोलता है कि how to put your house in order so that you handle the project with comfort and confidence. Okay, but there is a technical side of that. There is a management side of that. There is an architectural structure of all this side, which a society is not supposed to know, and that is also not under the purview of MCSI. तो फिर वो कैसे करते? एक अगर 5 साल का प्रोजेक्ट करना है और वो इतना कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रोजेक्ट करना है तो ऑब्वियसली यू नीड अ प्रोजेक्ट गाइड. तो उसको आइडेंटिफाई करने के लिए 79A टॉक्स अबाउट अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ अ प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंट. सो वेयर 79A फॉल्स शॉर्ट, कौन सा है? 79 is doing an excellent job of internal management of the society in terms of discipline, transparency, etc. decisions. But for doing a project, okay, you need someone who is an expert, external expert. So I remember 79A, I believe, is a 12 page document. 12 पेज के डॉक्यूमेंट में प्रोजेक्ट तो नहीं होता है. अगर उसका डॉक्यूमेंट अगर प्रोजेक्ट के एंगल से बनने जाए ना, पता नहीं, मतलब इट माइट हैव 500 पेजेस, 100,000 पेजेस, क्योंकि वो प्रोजेक्ट उतना कॉम्प्लेक्स है. ओके, तो वो करने के लिए ये बताया गया है कि भाई आपको एक प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंट अपॉइंट करना है. एंड then it also says that the selection of developer also has to be through a tendering process. कोई डेवलपर है, आपको अप्रोच किया और आपने उसको काम दिया. This is not how it should be. Okay. Well, it also talks about website for a redevelopment project. Why website? Because in today's terms, okay, transparency is best illustrated in a website. Sometimes people ask me, कि भैया, there's a word mandatory. He's selecting a PMC mandatory. He's doing structural audit mandatory. He's following 79A mandatory. He's making a website mandatory. Then I have to tell them, see, not everything is mandatory, but if you do it this way, your project will stand on a sounder foundation and you will be able to do it in a proper manner by putting your house in a better order and also handling the project in a better way. So there may be some things which are mandatory, there may be some things which are not mandatory. Like for example, I always give this example, मेरी अगर तबीयत ठीक नहीं है, तो मैंडेटरी नहीं है कि मुझे डॉक्टर के पास जाना है, but ये definitely necessary है मेरे लिए that I have to go to a doctor. It's that kind of thing. Now, well, I'll show you more information on this is on website homepage. We will see that. I will personally give you a tour of that little later. Now, some important observations in about 79A. As I said, first, remember 79A is for internal governance. आपकी सोसाइटी के अंदर का governance. Member to member, managing committee to member. Okay. How they should transact, how they should interact, what kind of record they should keep internally, okay? And of course, in relation to the Registrar of Cooperative Housing Society, this is what 79A says, and in terms of regulation, internal governance of the society. Because society is internally governed through bylaws and through the regulation of the Registrar of Cooperative Housing Society. But at the same time, 79A is not for comprehensive project approach. There are two approaches. One is internal, putting your house in order approach, which is done very well in 79A. But there is always a project approach, जिसके लिए 79A बोलती है आप एक PMC लेके आओ, उसके बाद में एक developer लेके आओ. Okay. But at the same time, one more observation about 79A is that it talks only about the formative stages of the redevelopment. आप देखेंगे तो all the guidelines about 79A वो डेवलपर के साथ आपकी एग्रीमेंट होती है तब तक के लिए ही है, उसके आगे कोई उसके गाइडलाइंस उसकी उन्होंने दी नहीं है. तो अगर हम लोग बाद में जो हमने थोड़ा सा समय पहले प्रोजेक्ट का ये देखा टाइम फ्रेम देखा, उसमें आप देखेंगे कि phase 1, phase 2 and first part of phase 2, which is the legal documentation, which totally adds to something like 12 plus 4 plus 8 plus 3. 15 महीने के लिए 79A. So what I always say, this is a very good primer. You build on this basis, but a time comes when you have to jump and go to the market for doing your project. So this, and again, another observation is that this is to be followed in essence and spirit, not in word. उसमें 79A में ऐसा लिखा है, अगर दो जनरल बॉडी मीटिंग तो हमको दो नहीं करनी है, हमको जितनी जरूरी है हमारे लिए उतनी करनी है. तो ऐसा नहीं कि भाई इन्होंने दो. So that those guidelines are not to be followed in word, but have to be followed in essence and spirit. Okay. Now there are two important observations about 79A which are there in the document itself. First is page 1, which I just mentioned a little while ago, which is mentioned that out of those 8 points, 5th point, which says projects fail because of absence of consistent approach. Absence of consistent approach. Okay. जो internally नहीं है. So absence of consistent, what is expected is that we should have a good approach. And that's why we've been talking about structured approach. We talked about in last webinar, and we'll be continuing talking about that, the structured approach through rest of the webinars, but for different parts of the redevelopment project. The second point is on page 3, जिसमें लिखा हुआ है कि to present an outline of the project. Okay, जब PMC आता है, okay, in the first meeting itself, you have to present, or your PMC has to present little later an outline of the project. Now, in how many societies does this happen? PMC selection आ गया, that meeting is over. As if everything minutes बन गए उसकी सब, there's no question of, there's no mention of outline. Okay, so how are people going to know कि how this project is going to go in future? तो ये बहुत जरूरी है. But for a complex project like this, केवल outline बन के चलेगा क्या? Or should we know the project in much greater detail about what kind of steps we should be doing in future? Okay, so वो जो है part, जो outline. So what we suggest always is that once your PMC comes on board, what I would suggest, I ask your PMC to give a presentation to all the members how that project is going to happen, and give them clarity about all the steps in general, but more particularly the stages or the steps up to the selection of the developer, so that everyone knows, okay, for what I'm saying is that at least first 2 phases should be made clear, so that so when I say 79A wants what clarity to be given to the members, okay, so this is what is required to be done. I would suggest that for every project this needs to be done. Now we come to structural audit. Let's understand what this is. This is sometimes known in Mumbai as section 353B. Of course, this is not directly relevant to structural audit, but since we are now starting with phase 1, stage 1, this is a concept which should be explained and should be understood by you in its real context. So let's see what it is. So let's first understand what structural audit is. Now see, the building which you are staying in, जब वो building बन के जब ये आपको जब ये सौंपा दी, and when you took over the building, naturally the responsibility of maintaining the building and repairing the building falls on you. When I say falls on you, each member, managing committee, and the entire society, because the building is commonly owned by the society. So ये जो है, but building, like anything, like a car, like a computer, like anything, okay, like or say any machine, what happens is that building deteriorates over a period of time. What could be the causes? एक तो aging, मतलब building बुढ़ी होती जाती है, so that shows on the building also. Then there is the problem of seepage, external seepage. External meaning rainwater seepage, internal seepage, ऊपर के फ्लैट से नीचे के फ्लैट में ये सीपेज हो जाता है. Then there are additions, alterations. हम लोग internally बहुत modifications करते हैं. Then there are overloading and such misuse. So जैसे building बनी वैसे रहती नहीं. So these are the things which happen. Okay. Then there is building बन गई, poor maintenance. Well, many of the old buildings, people, societies complain कि maintenance के लिए लोग contribute करते ही नहीं. It's a fact, it's a sad fact. जैसे बोलते हैं ना कि मतलब इंटीरियर बहुत लाखों का हो जाता है, but building repair के लिए पैसा लोग निकालते नहीं है. Some buildings are not even painted for 15 long years. तो ये सब हो जाता है जिसका because of prolonged neglect, the deterioration also goes on increasing. So this neglect can be summed up in one line. सबका प्रॉब्लम मतलब किसका प्रॉब्लम नहीं. Like everybody's problem is nobody's problem. So that is why some buildings deteriorate faster than other buildings. Now, in addition to that, well, these 3 points are generally understood by everyone, but there could be other points also, such as the environmental factors, saline weather, pollution. Are you aware कि गाड़ी का जो pollution होता है, vehicular pollution also contributes to the deterioration of the building. It causes what is called as carbonation of concrete. Okay, so this is something which is also serious. Then there could be subsoil chemicals and sub-building which adversely affect your foundation. These are the environmental factors. There could be more, and of course disasters which do not happen regularly. लेकिन जब भी हो जाते हैं तभी there is a lot of damage which they can do. Fire, earthquake, blast. या तो आपकी बिल्डिंग है लेकिन बगल वाली बिल्डिंग में नया बिल्डिंग एक न्यू बिल्डिंग is being constructed and the foundations have gone 30 feet deep. So that could also be some reason for worry. So these are the things because of which a building can, an element of risk can come into the building, an element of deterioration of quality, an element of loss of stability of the building can come into a building. And therefore, what is required, we have to keep a watch on this kind of situation. Like, we all know how important it is to maintain a car. अगर हम कार हमारी ठीक से मेंटेन नहीं करते हैं तो गाड़ी चलेगी नहीं. अभी चलेगी नहीं ना तब हमको पता चलता है कि भैया अरे गाड़ी चल रही है. Then we take the car to the garage. Whereas the building never says anything, and we take it for granted. Okay? जिसमें हमारी फैमिली रहती है, जिसमें हमारे बच्चे रहते हैं, we take that building for granted, we take our home for granted until we wake up at the time of redevelopment and then we realize that हमारे पास तो बहुत बड़ा asset है. I think this is a wrong approach. So what is required here is that you need to periodically get your buildings assessed to know its structural condition, which is called as whether it is fit for human habitation. आपके लिए वो building safe है कि नहीं? So I'm talking about the safety part. Okay, Loyal. Now I will not be talking a lot about structural audit here because I'm actually in the flow of redevelopment. But if you go to our website, then you will find there is some additional information कि भाई ये जो सर्वे होता है स्ट्रक्चरल ऑडिट का, ओके, या इंस्पेक्शन होता है. सो व्हाट आर द थिंग्स व्हिच आर कवर्ड देयर, नॉन डिस्ट्रक्टिव टेस्ट कौन से होते हैं, स्ट्रक्चरल ऑडिट की रिपोर्ट में क्या हो जाता है. सो दीज आर द टेक्निकल पार्ट्स व्हिच आर ऑलरेडी देयर. So those of you who are interested, you can visit that. I'll show you that little later in our orientation. But there is more in the website than what I'm talking about in this webinar about structural audit. अब ये structural audit हमारे सर पे कैसे बैठ गए? Statutory provisions which are applicable for the state of Maharashtra. Okay, ये कहाँ से आ गए? So this came into being through amendments to Maharashtra Municipal Corporations and Municipal Councils Act 2008 through its 5th amendment dated 7/2/2009. So ये सब चालू हो गया 2009 से. बाद में आपको I will just so that I don't forget, I will show you that in the terms of cooperative housing societies, the concept of structural audit actually existed even 10 years before this amendment. Okay, we will see about that later. तो ये जब act ऐसा amendment हो गया, then so many things became applicable to all the buildings in Maharashtra. I'm saying all the buildings in Maharashtra. So structural audit is not just about cooperative housing society, it's about any and every building that is in the state of Maharashtra. And maybe other states also will follow suit with the modification amendments in their acts. That's a different thing. So this amendment has made a structural audit mandatory with immediate effect. So structural audit mandatory है क्या? तो हाँ mandatory है, आपको choice नहीं है. Now coming, what is it? It is technically called as examination by a structural engineer. जो एक structural engineer आप appoint करेंगे, आप उसको structural auditor बोल सकते हैं. He will come and examine your building and then he will check the fitness of building for human habitation. आपकी building आपके लिए safe है क्या? Safety, risk, stability, Those are the concepts which are under purview. And he will finally write a report and give you a certificate of structural stability certificate. मतलब ऐसा है कि ये बिल्डिंग स्टेबल है क्या. अनदर पैरेलल एग्जांपल आई गिव यू. अगर मैं बीमार हूं, ओके, तो आई एम नॉट फिट फॉर गोइंग टू ऑफिस. सो आई टेल माय बॉस दैट आई एम नॉट कमिंग बिकॉज आई एम नॉट वेल. So I see a doctor, he gives me medication. I am under his care for say about a week. Then I tell the doctor, am I fit for going to office? And doctor says yes. Then I say, give me a fitness certificate. This is something similar to that. Okay. So this certificate, this clause which is called a certificate, which is called structural stability certificate. Now, okay, so these are the 4 points which came into being through the 5th Amendment. And remember, ये जब ये एक्ट अमेंड हो गया तो उसके साथ में महाराष्ट्र में there are 4 acts. I don't want to go into those details. If you want more to know more about that, then you go to the website. I have discussed that there. Okay, which are the 4 acts? Because सब बॉम्बे के नहीं है. कोई अगर नागपुर का है तो उसके लिए अलग एक्ट लगता है. लेकिन कोई भी एक्ट होने दो, in all the 4 acts in the state of Maharashtra, this provision of structural audit has been already made. That amendment has already been made in all the 4 acts. तो अभी हम देखते हैं, let's close our home. अभी अगर मुंबई में हम है, तो how does this apply to us? Okay, here we call this as section 353B. The structural audit clause is in the Act, Mumbai Municipal Corporation Act. Out of those 4 acts which I just mentioned, the Mumbai Municipal Corporation Act, which is applicable to the Mumbai area through BMC, Mumbai Municipal Corporation. Okay, the section is called 353B. इसलिए जब भी आपको स्ट्रक्चरल ऑडिट की नोटिस आती है तो उसको बोलते हैं 353B की नोटिस. Okay, now क्या बोलते हैं वो? What does section 353B say? It says that the first structural audit of your building should be done when your building is 30 years of age. 30 साल अगर आपके बिल्डिंग को हो गए, कोई भी बिल्डिंग तो 30 साल हो गए तो आपको स्ट्रक्चरल ऑडिट कराना है, which is a mandatory requirement. Now 30 years from where? Number 1, 30 years from the OC, which we talk about, or completion certificate, which we talk about in Mumbai. Or, देखिए, this is for entire master. Or first date of assessment of the building, or physical occupation of at least 50% of the built-up area, or date of water connection, whichever is earlier. So normally we do understand it as OC से 30 साल. Okay, लेकिन अगर कोई बिल्डिंग को OC नहीं मिले तो then the other things will apply. So this is what you have to do, the structural audit at 30 years from this. Okay, but अगर आपकी बिल्डिंग, if your building is really in a bad shape, and if BMC comes to know about that, then you need to do structural audit even earlier. ये जरूरी नहीं कि आपकी बिल्डिंग, like there have been cases in New Bombay where the buildings have been only 15-year-old, but they have been required to do structural audit because the construction quality was bad and the building was in bad shape. So there was definitely a risk to the people who were staying there. So 30 years, but if the building is in bad shape, then you need to do it earlier. And the certificate of structural stability must be submitted to BMC within 1 year. And who can do structural audit? Who can be a structural auditor, if I may say that? Structural engineer who is registered with the BMC. Okay, as a structure. Now, just on a lighter side, let me say, bring out to you and that हम लोग ना in redevelopment as well as in structural audit, कई बार लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं, आप BMC के पैनल पे आएगा. You see, for doing structural audit, BMC के पैनल पे आप होना चाहिए. Or for you see a number of advertisements for PMC, that is Project Management Consultant for Redevelopment. उसमें लोग बोलते हैं आपको बीएमसी के पैनल पे, आर यू ऑन द पैनल ऑफ बीएमसी? Are you on the panel of BMC as a project management consultant? Are you on the panel of BMC as a structural auditor? Let me tell you, ऐसा दोनों पैनल कोई नहीं है. लेकिन ये बहुत पैनल वर्ड आता है, न्यूज़पेपर में भी आता है. What is meant there is when in terms of BMC, there is no separate panel for doing structural audit. Okay, all those structural engineers who have a license for designing the buildings, they are automatically licensed to do structural audit. Similarly, about project management consultant, ऐसा कोई redevelopment का project management का panel नहीं. Okay, so with this, let me go to the classification of building. This again in terms of Mumbai Municipal Corporation. Okay, now when a building का report बन गया structural audit का, and the building का structural stability certificate भी बन गया. Now what is required by BMC is that the person who has done the structural audit must classify the building in one of the 4 classes. Now let's see what those classes are. कई बार आपके लोग बोलते हैं अरे मुझे मेरा बिल्डिंग तो C1 डिक्लेयर हो गया, मतलब अनसेफ हो गया. If the structural engineer finds that the building is unsafe and needs to be vacated and demolished immediately, then it's called C1 category building. It's an unsafe building, and such a building is served a notice under section 354. Okay. Second point is, दूसरा कैटेगरी है वो ऐसा है कि आपको बिल्डिंग डिमोलिश नहीं करना है. It's called C2 category. But even then, in C2, you need to do what it means is that your building needs major structural repair. अभी major structural repair, अगर आपको बिल्डिंग में there is a part of the building which is dangerous, for which you have to vacate that part of the building, and not the entire building, and carry out the repairs. C1 में क्या है? Vacate करना ही है और demolish करना ही है building. In this, you have to vacate. In C2A, you may have to vacate a part of the building, and other people may remain, and you still repair, but those repairs will be major structural repairs. Or else, आपकी बिल्डिंग कैन बी क्लासिफाइड एज C2B, कि आपको वेकेट करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बट स्टिल योर बिल्डिंग नीड्स अ मेजर स्ट्रक्चरल रिपेयर. और लिस्ट डिमांडिंग वुड बी, अगर आपको मिली लाइक यू नो इफ यू आर नॉट इन रेड जोन, इफ यू आर नॉट इन ग्रीन जोन, एंड इफ यू आर इन द नॉट इन द ब्लू जोन, एंड इफ यू आर in the C3 category, I will say you are in the green zone. आपको बिल्डिंग करने मतलब माइनर रिपेयर जो नॉर्मली लगते हैं, मेंटेनेंस, that is what you have to do. No evacuation is required. So this is basically the classification which is followed in. I did not change. Why? Yeah. Okay. In YouTube also. Okay. So now, alongside these requirements which alongside these acts which I just mentioned, okay, let me say that the different acts which I talked about, the clause in 353B is in the Mumbai Municipal Corporation Act. Okay, in the other acts the number may be different, but the provisions of structural audit are all the same in all the acts. Okay. Now, alongside the normal act which I just talked about, if you are staying in a cooperative housing society, I just mentioned that society building or a school building or a government building or any other building or any other structure. But for those of you who are staying in cooperative housing societies, obviously you have the model bylaws which bind you together, and they become a set of rules by which you govern internally, right? They are called model bylaws. So there also you will find that there is a bylaw number 76, which I just checked in the latest model bylaws of the cooperative housing societies published by the Mumbai District Cooperative Housing Federation in August 2024. There's a bylaw number 76, which says that your first structural audit must be undertaken at the age of 15 years, not 30 years. And thereafter, you need to do it every 5 years, that is 15, 20, 25, 30, until the building becomes 30 years, after which you need to do it every 3 years, 33, 36, 39, like that. Okay, so these provisions are more stringent. Whereas the early one, which is that MMC Act, those are mandatory. These provisions, and if you ask me as a structural engineer, and perhaps these bylaws, and just one more point I just mentioned a little while ago, that is, these bylaws have been existing about 10 years before 2009, even before that act came. That time it was called bylaw number 75, now the number has changed to 76. If you ask me, this makes a lot of sense to me for a cooperative housing society, क्योंकि 30 साल अगर आप रुके तो आपकी कुछ हो जाता है. So it makes sense, especially for cooperative housing societies building which are not maintained well, that you have a timeline which is like this. Okay. Now, who should be doing the structural audit? The same people, like say 2 engineers from corporation panel, or या तो फिर government approved structure engineer के साथ आपको ये करना है. So this is what I have presented to you as structural audit as per MMC Act and structural audit as per the model bylaws. Now, we talked about structured approach in our last webinar also. Okay, and then we talked, and I also give you an overview of the website Redevelopment, www.redevelopment.in. Now, let us see how that structural approach, how it really works for us. Now, here I would like to quote Benjamin Franklin, who says, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. I'll read it again. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Who was Benjamin Franklin? Benjamin Franklin is what we call as polymath. He was he had many roles. He was many things. He was a writer, he was a scientist, he was a publisher, he was a printer, he was a political philosopher, he was a statesman, and he was a founder of the United States. Someone who has seen his life from many angles. Now, doesn't this make sense to us? If we fail to plan, you are planning to fail. What it simply tells us, in a very commonsensical manner, कि आप भैया आपको कुछ अच्छा चीज करना है तो आपको प्लान ही करना है, आपको फेल नहीं होना है. Now, this applies to every single thing in our life, even if it's small. So just imagine how important this would be for a complex project like development. Let's right. So, what is a structured approach? When I say structured approach, essentially what we are talking about in our website is a structured process. Okay, कैसे करते हैं हम लोग इसको? First of all, number one, what we do is that what we should do is that adopt from the beginning. ये approach होता है ना, वो बाद में नहीं आता है. Sometimes some damage, जिसको बोलते हैं हम लोग congenital defects, पहले ही बन जाते हैं. You started on the wrong foundation. फिर कुछ गलतियां ऐसी हो जाती है, you are not able to rectify them in future. So what you should do is that you have to adopt from the beginning a step-by-step roadmap, make it a baseline schedule. For those of you who are having a little project management background in whichever field, maybe IT or vision, you will definitely understand what I'm trying to say. It's a baseline schedule. मतलब आपको क्या करना है, आप जो करेंगे वैसा होगा नहीं होगा, that's a different thing. But if you don't have a plan, as I said, you are perhaps destined to fail. तो आपको एक baseline schedule बनाना है, so that you always, kind of, I always think, I must have told you last time that I think of redevelopment project जैसे मतलब जो बोलता है ना कि like a drunkard, पी के चलता है, कभी सीधा नहीं चलता. Okay, कभी सीधा नहीं चलता, गिरते रहता है. And this is the project which is like that. Every time you have to hold that project, bring it back to the baseline as much as possible. If you don't do that, your project will go in whichever direction you will never know, and you will completely lose the control. So that's what I mean by having a baseline schedule. Then you should have a time frame and milestones laid out. What are milestones? Milestones मतलब बड़े चीजें जो आपने हासिल की. And time frame, you must have a time frame. If you are talking about 5-year project, let's talk about a 5-year project. If you are talking about 5.5 year, अगर आपकी society, maybe there are certain requirements कि आपका project 5 साल में नहीं हो सकता है. You know it right from the beginning. Let's say, for example, it requires the like say MOE approval. If थोड़ा ज़्यादा समय लग सकता है, that's fine. Maybe if you are talking about 6-year project, fine. But then let's factor that 6 year. So at least we know कि 6 साल में होना चाहिए. ऐसा नहीं कि 6 का 7 हो गया, 7 का 8 हो गया, 8 का 10 हो गया, जो होते रहता है ना. And a good amount of documentation is also required. Then what you need to do in the structured process? Use proven systems and standards. Step तो है, कैसे करे? Like you need coaching. Okay, ठीक है, फुटबॉल को किक मारना है या बैट को बॉल को बैट से मारना है, कुछ स्किल होगा उसका, कुछ टेक्निक होगा, कुछ सिस्टम होगी, कुछ स्टैंडर्ड होगा, हर चीज का होता है. सो फॉर आवर प्रोजेक्ट विच इज अगेन मोर कॉम्प्लेक्स देन दिस गेम्स, वी मस्ट हैव द प्योर सिस्टम्स एंड स्टैंडर्ड्स. देन वी शुड टेक प्रिकॉशंस, डूज एंड डोंट्स. हमको प्रोजेक्ट संभाल के करना है. लाइक जैसे आपको अगर एक बॉल अलग का आपके क्रीज के बाहर का बॉल आपको मारना ही नहीं, there are certain things you have to take precautions and do the project when you are taking those actions, and track your project regularly. आपको ये बाद में नहीं पता चलना चाहिए कि यार मेरा प्रोजेक्ट फेल हो गया. अगर आपका प्रोजेक्ट कहीं हट रहा है, कुछ जा रहा है, तो during the course of the project itself you should know that my project is really not on my schedule, or the baseline schedule. Well, let's see how this falls in place with www.redevelopment.in. What we give here, or what we have already given here, is ये जो आपको मैं बताने वाला हूँ कि standard systems which are given here. There's a step-by-step roadmap which has already been presented in the website. From the stage of inception, that's the beginning, right into the stage of handover. These are based on, this roadmap is based on the Technoesis systems and standards. हम भी देखो जैसे just like a surgeon learns from his patients, from all his surgeries, a PMC has to learn from all his projects. So we have an experience of doing projects by a single owner, by society, MARA projects, MOE में गए हुए projects where there was no conveyance, okay, projects which went into litigation, and so many such variants, projects under different regulations. ये सब किया है. So ये करके whatever we have learned and what we've been using in our office is what will be presented in this website. And it has been presented in a manner so that you can use it as a self-help guide or manual of operation, और जिसको हम बोलते हैं ना स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर. ओके, आपके प्रोजेक्ट में खुद से लेके जो दिया है उसके बेसिस पे आप आपके प्रोजेक्ट को मॉनिटर और कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं. एंड सिंस दिस इज अ वेबसाइट, इट्स ऑलवेज एट हैंड एज अ यूजफुल रिसोर्स. यू मे बी एनीवेयर इन द वर्ल्ड, आपका मोबाइल आपके साथ में है तो आप हमारी वेबसाइट आपके साथ में है. सो you have access to the website from anywhere. And a person can join the website at that stage and then start from there. But remember, not all projects are alike. The process is the same, okay? But the projects are never the same. No two projects are the same. Therefore, it's what I would advise you that you should really use this where whatever systems we have presented to you, evaluate them for your project, see their relevance for your project, and use them with care and caution. ऐसा नहीं कि भाई हमने नहीं करना है. Just understand what you are given are again guidelines, not something that it will be blindly followed or applied to any of your projects. And remember, as this is our promise that our standards are being regularly improved and enriched. नई चीज आते जाएंगी वेबसाइट में, so that you get the benefit of it. Now, how do you use this website? As I said, as a process, okay? तो this website कौन से city के लिए? ये मुंबई के लिए है क्या? No, this may be for any city, any DCPR, whether it is Thane ka DCPR, Pune ka DCPR, kahin bhi, for that you use that particular, whatever are the specifics of that DCPR in this process, and you are good to go with your project. Or plot, अगर आपका plot owned है, leased है, collector land है, माड़ा है, कुछ भी होने दो, the process remains the same. आपकी building सोसाइटी है, owned है, tenant है, the process remains the same. Only thing that this website is, that doesn't change here, or which is fixed here, that this website has been designed with a model for development through a developer, not for self-development per se. But even then, for those of you who are doing self-development or having that kind of idea in your mind, what you can do is that you can use the last two parts, the construction and repossession modules of this, and you will find a lot of value. Again, you'll have to adopt them for your project. And as I said, you can use it from any stage. And who can use this? Any member, managing committee, even the PMCs, the other PMCs who are listening to this webinar. If they feel they can use these systems for their own projects. And of course, even a developer. But as I said, approach and process, we are presented about plot owned by cooperative societies, and you may modify and adapt to suit your needs. Now, I will quickly go through structure of website. There's a home page, which I'll be showing that to you. Then there are 5 inner pages. For those 5 pages, 5 phases, starting from feasibility phase right up to the stage of phase of repossession. And for each phase, what we have presented, each phase, we have presented a roadmap, milestones, which are major or decisive steps, records, guideposts, and do's and don'ts. Now, let me take you through the initiating project and approaching and appointing a PMC part here. I'm sharing a screen for the website now. Yeah, I think you can see, that's okay. That's okay. So when you visit our website, this is the homepage you see. What you see here is that being a homepage, right on the homepage, you will find many things which are relevant to the project of redevelopment, but not about the phases. You see on the left side here, you can see these, there are phases on the left hand side, then what's new window there, and then there's a login area here. Okay, and on top here there's a strip where you can see the home icon, then about us icon. You can send a mail, you can send a message through WhatsApp here, and you can also see your location. Now, being on the home page, there are some notes here. Success through structured approach, a phase-wise project, get the most from the website. And of course, there are 6 videos here on redevelopment, which you want to, if you want, you can check them out later. Right on top, there's a bar, basics of redevelopment here, then phases of redevelopment. So different phases which we talked about. Then what we mean by structured approach. These are the things which we covered in last webinar. For those of you who are not there, I would suggest that you please go through the or check out the webinar, and you will find all these things nicely explained there. But guidelines of 79A is first in our today's webinar. So here, let me show you. This is the guideline which is in Marathi original. So when you click on the guidelines, you will see this Marathi guidelines. There are translations done by different people which are available in English. So you may refer to them also, but I always refer to the original which is in Marathi. Then the same guidelines what we have done is that we have taken a little effort to put those guidelines and up to the stage of feasibility, because that is people fumble with the initial stages. So what we have done is that up to the stage of feasibility, if you see the second row here, we have compiled those guidelines in English and in form of a step. So a action, by whom, and remarks. So if you are just beginning in your project, then up to the stage of feasibility report, what is mentioned in 79A is also well covered in this link. Then in structural audit, what is structural audit? Why structural audit? Statutory provisions, which we talked about, statutory provisions for Mumbai, structural audit report, which I said, and non-destructive testing, if you want to know. There are two more links here. And then help in your about abbreviation. This is a website where we have to use, many abbreviations. For example, society ke liye SOC, architect ke liye ARCH, like that, so that the text becomes brief. So you can see the abbreviations here, and of course, contact us. Now let me take you to the feasibility stage. Yeah. Okay. Here we are. So this is a page which is for feasibility study. Okay. Now in feasibility study, again, we have two stages here. If you see here in roadmap here top, there are two stages. First is initiating project and appointing PMC, which is what we are doing. And then feasibility study and report. So this report is a part. Browsing is showing untrusted. We have a secured website, HTTPS. We have a secured website. Okay. So initiating project and appointing PMC is today's subject. So let's see what happens there. Okay. And feasibility study and report. So here, initiating project and appointing PMC, you will see there are some notes here. Okay. Then in the roadmap, if I click there, initiating project and appointing PMC. Well, I am taken to this roadmap. Now, this is a roadmap wherein all the steps, there are how many steps? Let me see. There are 11 steps in this initiating project and appointing a project management consultant. So 11 steps, and in this table, there is a serial number, step. What is the step? To be taken by whom? Particulars of the step, and then some additional features about the step. We will see what those additional features. M standing for milestone. Is that step a milestone? R standing for record. Does the step entail a record? And G is a short form for guideposts, which tells you a very well articulated internal standard which I have shared with you, of course, in a brief point by point manner. Now, let's say if the first step is to send, what happens is that 20% of your society members, they send a request to the managing committee saying that the request is to convene a special general body meeting to take a decision on redevelopment. कौन बोलता है ये? 20% of your members are writing to the managing committee. Here, इसके लिए आप general body meeting बुलाइए so that we can take a decision on that. Okay. So ये जब ये हो जाता है, so this is stage by whom? Members. What are the particulars? They say request should be made to the secretary. So it should be addressed to the written request to the secretary. Then second step is to call the managing committee meeting, MCM1. Now, why is the number 1? Because we have identified the bare minimum managing committee meetings. Okay, this is the first one of that. So the managing committee meets, they have a meeting, and to discuss and schedule the general body meeting, special general body meeting,
in which to take a decision for decision on a redevelopment project, whether to go for redevelopment, right? So this step is taken to schedule a managing committee meeting is taken by the secretary, and the managing committee MC-M1 is to be held within 8 days from the receipt of the request. This is what 79A says. तो आपके मेंबर ने लिख दिया तो 8 दिन में उनकी मीटिंग होगी. उसके बाद उसके बाद once it is decided to schedule a meeting, a general body meeting, the next thing that the managing committee should do is that उस मीटिंग में जो मिलानी है 2 डिसीजन लेने हैं. एक तो है to go for redevelopment. The second one is to select the PMC. So what the MC or the managing committee should do is obtain proposals from experienced project management consultants, or sometimes what is called as the expression of interest. Okay, and be ready with them. And it says, let's see the particular. What it says, it's best to provide important details. आप अगर बोलेंगे सब PMC को आपका quotation भेज दो, तो आपको अच्छा quotation नहीं है, because the PMC doesn't know what kind of society you are, what kind of plot you is, what size of plot you are, and your other specific, आपका conveyance why and everything. So it's necessary that you give information about your project to the prospective PMCs, and then based on that, you make a format and you ask them to give their proposals in that format. Okay. Now, and what 79A says is that आपके पास minimum 3 proposals आने चाहिए, 3 PMCs. Now let's see. Yeah, if you see this step number 3 says there is a GP. GP means what? Guidepost. I'm clicking on the guidepost. Now what do I see there? Correct. So you see the first guidepost here. Whatever was mentioned there, it has been articulated here कि content of request for proposal from PMC. आपको PMC से जो proposal लेना है, उसका content क्या होना चाहिए? So that content should have project particulars, required proposal, and कहाँ देना है proposal, कौन सी तारीख तक देना है, seal देना है, open देना है, email से देना है. All those things should be clear to this. Okay. Now let me go back to the roadmap. I just came here to show you the that guidepost. Now here I am on the roadmap. Once these proposals are received, then the managing committee will prepare a comparative statement of the proposals received from PMCs and shortlist of the PMC's proposals. And then once PMC's proposals are received in a structured format, they may be put up in a techno-commercial statement and evaluated based on certain criteria. ये criteria क्या होंगे उसके लिए अलग slide है, PMC selection criteria. उसमें अपन जाएंगे तो 5 मिनट के here also, but I may not go for that guidebook because I have an entire separate slide for that. Then the next thing is to arrange the presentation of the shortlisted PMCs. Okay, shortlisted PMC का presentation आपके general body के लिए वो होना चाहिए. Then the second is to send out the notice after the presentations are over. Then the managing committee will send out the notice for the special general body meeting SGBM1. ये first meeting है, इसके लिए 14 days का notice लगता है. And PMC or comparative statement, and it will be the PMC will be selected here on the basis of the comparative statement which will be presented by the MC to the members. And meanwhile, the MC may invite suggestions, recommendations from members and schedule SGBM1 within. Now this general body meeting 79A says that it should be scheduled within 2 months from the managing committee meeting. Okay, these are the guidelines. Then we are having this main meeting, which you say is a definite milestone. If you can see here M on the right hand side, this is a milestone. Step number 7 is a general body meeting for decision for redevelopment and selection of PMC. Okay. Now PMC may be selected in accordance with the procedure suggested in 79A. Okay. And resolutions to be passed here in this meeting. Number one, to record the members' consent for redevelopment. उनको redevelopment करना है कि नहीं. Okay. Otherwise, once that is done, then to select a PMC and to confirm and to issue terms of appointment and to issue a letter of appointment to him. Okay. To instruct the PMC to submit a roadmap for different stages up to vacating the premises. यहाँ आपको PMC को मतलब PMC इस मीटिंग में नहीं करेगा. He will do it in a different meeting. But this is what is resolved in the meeting कि PMC को हम ये करने के लिए बोलेंगे. And then to instruct the PMC to prepare a feasibility report. Now there are notes here as per 79A. Minimum quorum for this should be 2/3 or 67% of the total members. At least 51% of total members should accord their consent for redevelopment. 51% of total members. मतलब अगर आपके members total members अगर 100 members society में है, तो the quorum should be 67 members, but the resolution should be passed with 51 members, not 51% of 67, 51% of 100. That is the total member. And then minutes of meeting should be sent to the members as well as to the registrar office. Now see, if quorum for this SGPM is inadequate, it shall be adjourned and reconvened within 1 month with 7 days notice. और वहां भी quorum नहीं हुआ second time maybe, then it shall be then meeting shall be cancelled and another SGBM shall not be called within 3 months thereafter. तो उसके बाद 3 महीना पहले आप decision internally बनाओ, then you repeat the process and then you after 3 months you can have another meeting like that and pass your resolution. Then the next step is to stop meeting to the members. Then the next stage is to send the minutes of meeting to the deputy registrar's office. And the next step is to issue a letter of appointment, formal letter of appointment to the project management consultant, which becomes a record. Here R लिखा है तो मतलब वो record है. You can see here R. अगर R करके जाएंगे आप record में जाएंगे, then you will see the letter of appointment जो देते हैं हम उनको. Okay, so this is the record stage. And this website is very easy to use. You might be seeing it in small print, but when you do it, a lot of people have told me that they have tried this at their home and there have not been much of doubts there. Okay. Then issue of letter of appointment, there is a GP also. GP means guidepost. मतलब आपके appointment letter में क्या क्या होना चाहिए, वो भी मैंने यहाँ क्लिक किया. ये देखिए, these are the PMC selection criteria. The contents of appointment letter, they are given here. These are again broad. आपके society के लिए कैसे चाहिए, you will have to put those particulars here. And then submit time schedule for work up to the developer selection. तो आपको PMC को फिर वो developer selection का तक का time period या road map आपको दिखाना है. So there also there is a guidepost. Just clicking on that. Some I'm so sorry. Okay. So you see here down below, these are the major milestones which we have identified. Your PMC or you may have some milestones which may be different. So this is what we do as a step by step. So what is expected in this roadmap for first step, first phase, and first stage is the initiating project and appointing PMC. These are the 11 steps you have to follow. Now, in this page itself, there you see there are set tabs at the top also. Milestones. If you click on milestones, you will get a list of milestones there. Here they are. Okay. What kind of records are created in the record? Initial project report, initial think project, and appointing PMC. You will see the records here for that step. Okay. Guideposts. If you want to see all the guideposts at one place for the first phase and first stage, you will see all these guideposts. Now, those do's and don'ts are still not active. We are working on, we will be making them active, and your FAQs will be a part of them. Now, with this, let me now go to back to my presentation to explain to you the selection criteria for appointing a PMC. PMC selection criteria. Right. Now, I would suggest you look out PMC in a very serious manner. ये project बहुत complex है, and your PMC should be good enough to guide you through this complex project. Okay, I would say a redevelopment project is something like a brain surgery, a very complicated thing. अगर आप कोई सर्जरी करना चाहते हैं, तो आप डॉक्टर जिस तरह से ढूंढेंगे वैसे आपको PMC ढूंढना है. You know, meaning someone who has got so much of experience. For every surgeon, हम ये देखते हैं कि भाई इसने सर्जरीज कितनी की है, कितनी सक्सेसफुल की है. Exactly that kind of approach should be adopted for selecting a PMC. Now, this slide gives you the PMC selection criteria. And remember, I have put experience right at the top. Qualification top पे नहीं डाला है. Okay, so in a simple language, if I have to say, जिस PMC ने PMC के बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स कंप्लीट किए हैं, उसको जितना एक्सपीरियंस है, hands on experience है in this complex field, he is your PMC. But when I say experience, what do I mean by experience? ये जो प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंट होते थे ना, it's a very loose term, sometimes it is used. Okay, PMC कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि डेवलपर भी कभी कभी PMC अपॉइंट करता है फॉर हिज ओन प्रोजेक्ट. कभी कोई डेवलपर कभी कोई प्रोजेक्ट के लिए उसका PMC अपॉइंट करता है. आप कभी आपकी बिल्डिंग रिपेयर करते हैं तो रिपेयर के काम के लिए भी आप PMC अपॉइंट करते हैं. So are we talking about such PMCs? No, we are talking about PMCs and their experience, which should count as the experience which they have had while working as on behalf of the society for a redevelopment project. तो जब भी आपको कोई PMC बोलता है कि मुझे हमारा इतना एक्सपीरियंस है, तो क्वेश्चन यू हैव टू आस्क इज आपको रिडेवलपमेंट में कितना एक्सपीरियंस है, और उतने सारे रिडेवलपमेंट के प्रोजेक्ट्स में आपने सोसाइटी की तरफ से कितने प्रोजेक्ट किए. तो दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. I have a classic example here, my experience personally. There was one project wherein we had shown that we had completed 8 projects. जबकि हमको हमारे सोसाइटी ने बोला, अरे भाई आपके पास तो 8 ही प्रोजेक्ट्स है, हमने तो एक भी, ये तो बहुत कम है. तो there are PMCs, एक PMC तो ऐसा ही has completed 21 projects. तो I said, fine, आप ये पता कर लीजिए कि उन्होंने 21 प्रोजेक्ट्स का आप लिस्ट देखिए, do a little due diligence and you find out. So then they realized when they went into the detail कि किसी डेवलपर, किसी PMC ने एक केवल विजिबिलिटी रिपोर्ट भी किया है, तभी उसको प्रोजेक्ट ही मानता है. तो दैट इज काउंटेड. कभी कोई थोड़ा रिपेयर का काम किया, देयर आल्सो इज PMC, उसी का. So like that there were 21 projects. So then they realized that when they found out and when they decided, the same PMC who had done this 21 projects, 21 दिखा रहा था, उसका जब भी उन्होंने चेक किया कि उसके रिडेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ सोसाइटी कितने थे, they got only 1 project. So this is something which you have to understand, because this experience is something very very important. It's a domain expertise which you are talking about. So, which is summed up in the first bullet here. It says experience as society's PMC for the redevelopment project, and redevelopment project में ना completed projects end to end, starting right from feasibility report up to the time OC और आप रहने को आगे, इसको प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीटेड बोलना चाहिए. कोई छोटा मोटा काम करके बस हो गया, feasibility report बनाया, that is not completion of a project. When we are talking about project, we are talking from step 1 to maybe step 250. Okay. दूसरा, okay, some you can definitely, you can also ask, आपके completed projects कितने हैं, आपके under construction projects कितने हैं. That is also a good indicator, because when the project has gone for construction, obviously उसके पहले का तो उसने ठीक से किया, इसलिए तो वहां तक गया. So some progress is definitely made by that PMC. So that's also worthwhile. या अगर अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन नहीं है तो IOD है, तो मतलब एटलीस्ट म्यूनिसिपल अप्रूवल तो आया, तो मतलब उसका थर्ड फेज तक काम हो गया. दैट्स आल्सो गुड थिंग. ओके. और वर्स्ट केस में कुछ भी नहीं तो डेवलपमेंट एग्रीमेंट साइन हो गया, मतलब चलो एक ठीक है अभी यहाँ से आगे हो. सो यू हैव टू आस्क भाई आपके कंप्लीटेड प्रोजेक्ट कितने, अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन प्रोजेक्ट कितने, IOD है कितने, और DA. जिस प्रोजेक्ट का DA नहीं हुआ है, आई डोंट थिंक दे शुड काउंट. There are a lot of people say हमने ये प्रोजेक्ट अक्वायर किया है, हमको ये मिला है, हमारी बात चल रही है. That actually should not count at all. And the biggest weightage should be given to the completed and under construction projects. Right. Then second point, when we say redevelopment projects, so maybe there is certain special requirement in your redevelopment in your project. तो आपके टाइप के प्रोजेक्ट का उसको एक्सपीरियंस है क्या? आपका, when I say your type of experience in your type of project, when I say your type of project, आपका टाइप का प्लॉट, let's say, okay, जैसे मतलब नंबर ऑफ बड़ा प्लॉट है, ओके, या तो अगर कोई क्लस्टर डेवलपमेंट में काम करना है, आपका प्लॉट ही इतना बड़ा है क्लस्टर, तो उसने उस टाइप का काम किया होगा. या तो उसकी हिस्ट्री कोई है क्या, मतलब आपके प्रोजेक्ट की कोई हिस्ट्री है कि यू वेंट फॉर डेवलपमेंट इन द पास्ट and for some reason you could not proceed, so you had to abort that. Now what is that? अगर वो कुछ इश्यू है तो ये नए PMC के पास उस सिचुएशन का आंसर है क्या? So this is your type of project. भैया ये PMC अच्छा है, मेरे लिए अच्छा है क्या? That is the question you have to ask. Then the challenge is, अगर आपके पास कुछ कन्वेंस, अगर आपके पास प्रोजेक्ट है, आपके पास कन्वेंस नहीं, but still you want to do the project, then you have to find out, yes it can be done. आज आपके पास कन्वेंस नहीं है, your project can be, you can start your project, okay? Although you may not be able to complete the project without a conveyance, that's another story. But conveyance नहीं है तो भी कोई PMC ने प्रोजेक्ट स्टार्ट किया और उसको कंक्लूजन पे लिया गया, या तो आपका प्लॉट कोई लेआउट में है, या आपका प्लॉट है सेंटा क्रूज रिले पार्ले एरिया में, there is a height restriction. These are the kind of challenges. If they are there in your plot, you should investigate through the, investigate those PMC कि भाई ऐसे challenges उन्होंने handle किए हैं. Okay. And as I said, client references, जब भी बोलते हैं, अगर PMC बोलता है महीने ही किया है, तो obviously you need to have a due diligence. You need to verify that. I'll tell you one very interesting case. हमने एक प्रोजेक्ट में, हमारे एक्सपीरियंस पे एक प्रोजेक्ट लिखा था कि ये भाई हमने प्रोजेक्ट कर दिया. Surprisingly, that society where we had sent our proposal, वो सोसाइटी ने वो हमको बोला कि भाई आपके प्रोजेक्ट में एक ऐसे लिस्ट है, ये तो आपने, क्योंकि there is another PMC who is claiming कि उसने नहीं ये प्रोजेक्ट किया. So how is it that both आपने भी किया उसने भी किया, तो ये कैसे है PMC? So you please explain. I said I don't know about that. I don't know this person who has done, but we have done the project. Then we gave the, then they called up our client, and the client was also confused. Then it turned out that that person had definitely worked on the project, but as developers PMC, and he had never come to the site also. So these are the things. So what जब भी हमने ये किया बोलते हैं ना कोई, तो whether he has really done it, so needs a little bit of due diligence, and this kind of due diligence later on we'll need to do it with when we select a developer also. In fact, more than this. So well, that we will cross that bridge when the time comes. But then next comes the establishment. अगर ये PMC ऐसा है, तो PMC का कंपनी कैसा है? Okay, when I say company, key people, office, systems and deliverables. Okay. Qualifications of the key people, their personal experience. Okay. Yeah, especially technical people, their professional licenses. उनका अप्रोच आपकी तरफ, आपके प्रोजेक्ट की तरफ कैसा है, एक्सेसिबिलिटी कैसा है. ऐसा तो नहीं होना चाहिए कि आप पीएमसी को फोन करते, पीएमसी 2-3 महीना फोन ही नहीं उठाते. These are sometimes the things which people have faced. Then, okay, these people are good. Do they have the systems to do the project? उनके पास उनकी सिस्टम, उनके रोड मैप, सिस्टम, स्टैंडर्ड्स, उनकी कुछ खुद की क्वालिटी पॉलिसी सिस्टम्स है क्या, उनकी ये सब चीज होना जरूरी है, ऐसा नहीं बता रहा हूं मैं. बट इसमें से कुछ अगर है तो यू शुड नो कि भाई किसके पास क्या है. उनकी व्हेन दे आर रनिंग एन ऑफिस, उनकी इंटरनल कुछ मैनेजमेंट इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम है क्या, विच कैन बी यूजफुल फॉर रनिंग द प्रोजेक्ट. एंड क्वालिटी ऑफ डिलीवरेबल्स एंड डॉक्यूमेंटेशन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, नेक्स्ट टाइम यू विल सी इन अ फिजिबिलिटी रिपोर्ट, feasibility report prepared by 5 different PMCs will be different. Okay, तो हर आदमी कैसे बनाता है, उसमें से एक्चुअली फिजिबिलिटी रिपोर्ट में क्या होना चाहिए. So I'm talking about that as an example of a deliverable and documentation, right? So तो उसका टेंडर जो बनाता है, उसका टेंडर का क्वालिटी कैसा होता है, उसके फिजिबिलिटी रिपोर्ट का क्वालिटी कैसा है, साइट पे जो भी कंस्ट्रक्शन में जाता है उसका रिपोर्टिंग का सिस्टम कैसा होता है. These are the things which you have to check when you are selecting a PMC in terms of his establishment and his office. So selection of a PMC is a combination of competence, experience, and trustworthiness. So this is a slide which I thought would be useful to you for when you select a PMC. Now I think we are at the end of this. Yeah. Okay, these are the fine. These are the stats, videos, etc. Okay. All right.
That's all.
Right. So thank you very much. You want to conclude? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Dhargalkar. It was very informative and interactive also. Now we are closing the session, but before that, there are some announcements. Like we said in the beginning also, अगला सेमिनार वेबिनार जो है that will be tentatively on 29th March, Saturday. That is because Sunday 30th is Gudi Padwa, so we are advancing it by a day. And in this webinar, we will cover phase 1, stage 2, which is feasibility study and report. So you can keep sending questions like we mentioned earlier also. These questions will help us formulate the FAQs for the website. So these questions are important for us. इस सीरीज में कई वेबिनार होंगे. उसके बारे में एक चीज हम स्पष्ट करना चाहेंगे, वो यह है कि ये सारे वेबिनार एक दूसरे से कनेक्टेड भी है और स्टैंड अलोन भी है. यानी अगर आप पूरा प्रोसेस समझना चाहते हैं तो आपको सारे वेबिनार एक सीक्वेंस में देखना जरूरी है, जिससे आपको फायदा होगा. लेकिन अगर आप कोई भी एक वेबिनार देखेंगे तो उस पर्टिकुलर फेज या स्टेज की पूरी जानकारी आपको मिलेगी. क्योंकि किसी ने ये पूछा था कि हमने पहला वेबिनार अगर नहीं देखा है तो क्या हम ये वेबिनार देख सकते हैं, देखने से फायदा होगा. तो के लिए है कि every webinar is a standalone webinar, but if you watch all, it will be more beneficial. PDF of today's presentation we will share on the group in a day or two, and also videos of this session also we will upload on YouTube channel, and that link will be shared on the group and on our website as well. So all are requested not to exit the group. This, like earlier announcement, this webinar has been approved by ECI, and professional engineers registered with ECI will get 2 credit hours for attending. So such candidates may drop us a mail and we will confirm their participation.